briefly introduce myself. My own name is David Moloney. I'm coordinator of blended learning and educational technology in Mary Immaculate College. So I haven't had a long distance to travel today, just across the city to meet you. What I'm going to cover in the next, hopefully, 40-45 minutes with you is an introduction to Articulate Studio 2013. Okay, I'm not sure if you're able to see that, both of you there, but what I'd like to do with this workshop is look at 4 key areas. So starting in the top left there, just a brief introduction to Articulate Studio 2013 and the 3 tools that comprise the suite. The second thing then, moving down to the bottom left, is I want to look very briefly at how you can theme in PowerPoint. You possibly already know how to do that, but how to set a theme, how to add visual content, which is quite easy, how to record some audio using Articulate. So again, you can have voiceover narration or music playing in the background of your slides or something like that. We'll look at how you can record audio. How you can synchronize both. So if you take the 2 elements, visual and auditory, to be separate, how you sync what appears on the slides with the voice that you're speaking about them in. So when you mention them, they appear on the slides so that they don't appear out of sync, if that makes sense. And then finally we look at annotating. All of that section will be within Articulate Presenter. And you'll see in a second, Articulate Presenter, all it is an extra tab within PowerPoint. So it actually just adds a new tab to your Microsoft PowerPoint. That'll be the second thing we'll look at. Thirdly, we'll briefly look at previewing what you've created and publishing it. I'm not sure if you're aware, but with something like Articulate, you need to be able to host it somewhere for someone to view it. In Mary Immaculate College, for example, if I was creating an Articulate lesson, I would host it on our virtual learning environment, which is Moodle. In UL, you use Solus, so you may be able to host an Articulate lesson on Solus also. Articulate do offer, I think, paid or priced storage or hosting space. It's called Articulate Online, where you can actually create an Articulate lesson and they will host it for you. That means if you want to get it to a wider audience, that's not just people that have an account on a virtual learning environment, for example. You can also publish it that people can click on a separate link and it will open in a web browser for them. And we'll look at that briefly as well. But ordinarily, it's hosted on something like a virtual learning environment. And finally then, we'll look at the other 2 tools that comprise Articulate Studio. And they are Articulate Engage and Articulate Quizmaker. Articulate Engage very simply allows you add interactions to a slideshow. So if you can imagine, you have a PowerPoint presentation. Articulate Presenter allows you to add certain features, such as recording audio, adding characters, doing different things like that, and publishing it with a frame around it. What Articulate Engage allows you to do is insert interactive elements into your presentation, whereby students or the people who are going to be viewing your lesson actually need to click on parts of the interaction to engage with it and to discover more information. That might seem a little vague at the moment, but I'll show you a few examples of interactions and you'll be able to see what I mean. And Articulate Quizmaker is exactly what it says on the tin. It allows you to make quizzes. You can have survey-based questions or actually graded questions within your quiz. So they might be multiple choice questions or drag and drop questions or something like that. Or you can ask opinion-based questions as well, such as, a survey monkey type as well.
Where do you collect these responses?
Where are they collected?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It depends on where it's hosted. If it's hosted on Solus, there's a format called SCORM that allows any answers to a quiz created using Articulate to be tracked on Solus. So Solus will be able to provide you with reports of what people responded. That's what happens with Moodle in any case, and I'm sure Solus is quite similar to that. Okay, and Articulate Online, because you're just hosting it with Articulate, they have the exact same functionality. They allow you to record everyone's responses to your quiz.
Can you upload it to the Articulate Online and have an interface in Solus or Moodle? Like interface of the. So if I don't want to host it in Solus,
yes,
I want to host it online.
Yes.
On Articulate, can I just have kind of interface
to log into?
to log in?
Yeah,
Or-
as far as I know, I haven't actually hosted anything on Articulate online myself, but as far as I know, what happens is you host your product online and you're able to send the people you want to take your
Just a
lesson
link.
a link.
Okay.
And they go to that link, they view your lesson, and what happens in the background once they take a quiz is all of their scores are tracked, so that when you log into your Articulate online account, you can view the scores that people have gotten in your quiz. Yeah, if that's
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Perfect.
Because then, if I put it in Solus, they need to migrate from Solus into the online, the Articulate online. To if I upload it in the
Okay.
online, right?
If you host your lesson on Solus, as I said, there's this.
If I host it, then it should be there.
Yes, and Solus should be able to track the responses using this SCORM format. Yeah, hopefully. Okay. So moving on, if that's all right, we'll start off with just a brief introduction to Articulate Studio. And we've already mentioned this anyway, so a lot of this we'll be able to whiz through quickly. But Articulate Studio comprises 3 products. It comprises Presenter, which is that extra tab in PowerPoint. It comprises Engage, which is a separate product outside PowerPoint. And it comprises Quizmaker, again, which is a separate product outside PowerPoint. In the last year or two, Articulate has also come up with its own screencasting software, and they've called it Articulate Replay. It's not necessarily part of the Studio suite, so we won't be looking at Articulate Replay for this session. But for yourselves, you might be prompted to download it for 30 days to try it out. So I'd advise you can try it out. If you've ever tried something like Camtasia or Screencast-O-Matic or Screener or any other screencasting software, Replay is very similar to that. It's screencasting. Yes, so if I wanted to record, I'm actually recording the screen as I'm speaking right now. Exactly, and it's recording my voice and recording when I flip through the screen and what I'm talking about. Exactly, so it's all synced together. So a lot of people use it for software simulation. So if you wanted to explain to someone how to use something, you screencast it and send them that video. It creates a video of that. Okay. So that's what Replay does, but unfortunately we're not going to cover that in this particular session. What those products publish to, so if you can imagine making a division here, Presenter, Engage and Quizmaker are all, you can create source files out of them so that you can edit all of those source files, no problem, to make them the way that you want them to be. You can also publish those source files, and that's how you create lessons. And those lessons are then hosted somewhere. So when you publish something with Articulate Studio, you can publish it to be viewable as either Flash, a Flash product, or HTML5. And you may have heard of HTML5 before, but what it does, you can see there on the screen, is it means presentations or lessons that you create using this software can be viewed on a large range of devices. So on smartphones that are both iPhone and Android devices, tablets again that are iOS, Windows or Android. So it means basically that if it's HTML5 that it's visible on a large number of devices, whereas Flash is not visible, let's say, on default applications on an iPad or on an iPhone. So with HTML5 you overcome that barrier, and your lessons are visible to people who might be flicking through it on an iPad or an iPhone. And we'll go through how to publish with that later as well. This is the common format of integration, in which that, if you imagine, Presenter I could easily have called PowerPoint as well. It just means that it's PowerPoint slides with additional audio functionality or some other features, like including a character, and I mean a character like someone in a certain pose. Yeah. Articulate ships with a lot of characters and poses. So that's your PowerPoint. This is the common format. It's not necessarily the only format. But within that, you can actually insert multiple Engage interactions. And an Engage interaction will take up one slide in your PowerPoint presentation, but it may mean that the person looking at it has to interact with 10 different elements on it. But for you, it only takes up one slide in your presentation. The exact same with Quizmaker. And just briefly to explain that point to you, I'll pop out of here and I'll show you this is exactly PowerPoint, and this is how I created the presentation that I'm giving right now to you. Later on in it, you'll see, I'll just flick down to the bottom, let's say here, you'll notice I've inserted an interaction. This is an engage interaction, but for me in PowerPoint, it simply appears as one slide. This is a Quizmaker quiz. In PowerPoint, for me, it's just one slide. When I show it to you in a moment, you'll see that there's 10 questions in that quiz, and there's about 8 or 10 different elements for you to click on within that interaction.
Before going to the next slide.
Exactly. So what I see is simply one slide taken up, but what the user will see is the actual interaction with 8 elements on it, if that makes sense. Okay? So I'll continue where I was. Okay, so again, that's just a common format of integration. It is possible to actually create an engage interaction that you could have a hyperlink that would open a presenter lesson within as well. That's a story for a different day, but it is possible to integrate Articulate that way also. Okay, really quickly before I flick back out, you'll have possibly noticed when I opened PowerPoint a moment ago that there was an extra tab on the top right, just up here, Articulate. That's all it is.
So we use PowerPoint.
Yes.
That was add-on Articulate.
Exactly. Perfect. That's it. That's
so
it.
now I download it now. So I open PowerPoint.
Exactly.
Not that. Okay.
Exactly. So even if you tried to open Articulate Presenter, which is the red icon,
it will open through the...
It will ask you to open PowerPoint. Exactly. So that's why it's such an easy...
it's part of the whole point.
Exactly. It's part of something you're probably already quite familiar with, which is very handy. As I say, Storyline is a separate product. It opens on its own accord. Exactly. It's its own bespoke standalone product. So just to really quickly run through parts of this with you, you'll see that most of the features, I go through some of them here, but most of these are things you'd expect from something that will allow you to create a lesson, such as if we begin off here on the left-hand side, record narration. I'm trying to keep out of your way there. That what it simply allows you to do is, the lovely feature that Articulate has is allow you to record slide by slide your audio narration. In newer versions of PowerPoint, it allows you to do the same thing. Yeah. In older versions of PowerPoint, when Articulate came out, you would need to record from start to finish all in one go of your lesson. So if you made a mistake halfway through or near the end, you might have to start again and record the whole thing again. So what Articulate Studio was built upon, the premise of it at the beginning, was that it allows you to record audio slide by slide by slide. And if you made a mistake, you just re-record over that particular slide again. So that's a handy little feature. We'll look at that in a moment, show you what it looks like. But it just simply means you can add voiceover so easily to your slides. Add annotations. I suppose the easiest way that I can try and explain this to you is, if you had already one layer, take for example this sheet, and you wanted to be able to draw on a layer in front of it or annotate something on it. So if I wanted to circle your name, but not actually on the sheet, on a layer almost in front of it, and point an arrow. Annotating is like having an invisible layer outside of the slide, the main slide, so that you can annotate over things, such as draw shapes, highlight something with a spotlight feature, something like that. That's what annotation is. You do it all the time on a PDF document. If any of you ever work on a PDF document, you annotate it by being able to draw on the layer above the text without interfering with the text. That's it. This allows you to do the same, and we'll actually look at how you can do that in a minute, and if you have that downloaded, we'll go through that too. Next set of features here. Mainly I want you to look at the sync animations feature, which is on the top of that little section there. That simply allows you to synchronize your visual elements with your audio elements, and I've mentioned that already. You can also import audio to Articulate if you want, which means that, I'm not sure if any of you, and I know Michael you're familiar with Audacity, but I'm not sure if any of you use Audacity. It's a free program that allows you to record audio and create MP3 files and that. If you wanted to import your MP3 files onto your slides, that if you'd already created your audio, you can do that very easily. So slide 1, you may already have some certain recording from Audacity created. You just import it and it becomes the audio for your slide. So if you prefer to import audio that you've created elsewhere, rather than record your audio within Articulate, that's possible to do also. And the audio you can import as well, just on the point, that doesn't have to be your narration, your voice narration. That could be a free-to-use music clip from something online. So if you wanted to import music, you can do that very easily there. The audio editor is a very handy function. If you, and I'll show you it in a second as well if you want to see that, but if you do, you know, hum and haw, similar to what I do a lot when I'm presenting, if you do that, you can simply go into the audio editor, look at the audio wavelength, highlight a part of it and get rid of it. And it's gone like that. It's very easy, and it's a powerful feature for such a product like Articulate Studio. It means you can go back over every single piece of audio you've created and listen to it and kind of rework it if you want. So let's say if there was a noise of a car alarm outside now, I could go back on my audio that I'm recording and actually try and silence it slightly. So it's a nice little feature, it's a nice tool. What I'm going to skip over now is this middle section, but I just want to point it out to you. We're looking at a tab here within PowerPoint. If we want to bring in an Engage interaction that we've created, we do so by clicking on the Engage interaction green icon there, but we would already have to have created the interaction. And I'll show you how you can do that. But if you want to bring it into your lesson or your presentation, you click on that and it asks you to find it. And that's all it is. The QuizMaker quiz is the exact same. The character, that's what I meant by character. You can insert a character onto the slides or onto multiple slides if you wish. And they give you a whole library of characters to choose from. Some of them are very nice, some of them are very good. If you want to include a video, either to embed it or whatever, you use this video feature. The reason you use the Articulate tab video feature is, if you think of your final product is going to be a published Articulate lesson. But if you insert a video using the PowerPoint method, it mightn't necessarily play in a published Articulate file. So if you imagine, even though it's built upon core functionality of PowerPoint, you want to use as much of the Articulate functionality as you can if your final product is going to be Articulate visible or visible to people looking at an Articulate file. I hope that makes sense, but if you are inserting a video or including it, you use this way if the end product is going to be Articulate. You can also insert flash files and web objects there as well, websites, web pages, that kind of thing as well. You can bring those in. The other thing I wanted to move on to is this slide properties option. And what that does is, those 3 bullet points explain it, I suppose, better than I will, but how your slides should advance. With an Articulate lesson, they can advance automatically, start to finish, that the user just sits back and watches it passively. Or if you want them to engage more, you can have the slides progress by the user that's watching it. So they need to click on next, 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 or previous if they want to go back and review what you've said because they didn't catch it first time around.
And if I want them to have a quiz in the middle, and then they can't progress until they solve the quiz. Exactly. Can we do that?
You can set that. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. I can show you how to do that in QuizMaker. And in actual fact, I think I have done it in this particular lesson. So that's an excellent point. If you wanted someone to view, let's say, 6 slides and then do a quiz, but if you wanted to stop them going back and stop them going forward, you can actually lock them into the quiz. And it means that they actually need to pass the quiz in order to progress on, which is a nice feature if you want that. But also you can actually lock it so that they can go back and forward and revise before they get a pass in the quiz. So both options are available. Just this slide properties thing again is a lovely feature in that I will show you this PowerPoint presentation published in Articulate in a second, just to show you what the finished product looks like. But I've included myself as a presenter on it. And at this point I might actually just show, it'll be easier rather than trying to speak hypothetically about it. So if I show you very quickly this lesson. So you'll see this is the lesson I'm giving at the moment. Now that appears quite large. It's not actually that large. I think it's the screen resolution has changed slightly with the connecting to the projector. But you'll see up here, I've added my photo, my name, whatever. So you'll see that slide properties in Articulate actually allows you to add a presenter for whoever is presenting that. What I meant by the next button, etc., is, and that usually isn't that size, bear in mind, it usually fits into the screen perfectly. I think it is a screen resolution issue. That the user would have to progress next to move on, like we have. They can recap to a certain point where your voice is speaking. They can go back to the previous slide very easily. Or on the left-hand side, you'll see there's a navigation menu. So I can flick on to whereabout I was, which is around this mark. Okay? And I can pause it as a student or as a user looking at it right now.
So you could have, say that's slide now, the text. And
Yep.
if you for an accessibility kind of issue, then you could have the video just for if you are visually impaired, just to listen.
Exactly.
And if you don't want to listen to it, you can just get past that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the e-learning things can be very frustrating when they make you listen to them.
Yes.
Like I read it already.
Yes.
Let me move on. That's really good.
Absolutely, and that's a good point. And even just picking up on your accessibility point there, you see where there's a menu tab here, where our navigation menu is. You can actually add a further tab called Notes to that. So, as you say, if someone with an accessibility issue, or even just prefers to read rather than listen and watch, you can put the text into a Notes tab up here, so that they can actually read what is being said. Turn off the volume and read it in their own pace and see the visuals on screen. So it does allow for many different learning types, even though I suppose we're all kind of combinations of all different learning types, but it does allow for someone who would prefer to just read the script of what the person is saying there as well. I'll come back to this at certain points throughout, but that's just briefly to show you what Articulate allows you to do, what it is. And a nice little feature as well, I'm not sure if it's included in this one, is that I've just hyperlinked this is all within PowerPoint, but you see if I wanted to go to section 1 here in Articulate, I just click on it and it moves me on to section 1. Okay, so it's nice, you can hyperlink a lot of things and it displays quite well. Okay, we'll return here and I'll just continue on. Okay, so I'll just move on. We've looked at all of those, and we were on slide properties. Okay, you'll have noticed also when I showed you this that all of my slides have titles. How I've given them titles is within the slide properties area also. Otherwise, it just appears as slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, slide 4. So to add that kind of professional dimension where your slides have proper titles that are relevant to what a person is seeing, you would do that in the slide properties area that I'm just looking at here. Progressing on, the player, preview and publish settings. I think, to be honest, player is maybe not necessary for us to do too much on today, but what it allows you to do is it allows you set the size of the Articulate lesson that the viewer is going to see it in. So you see that mine is actually oversized here because of the way it's being projected onto the screen. There's not usually slide bars at all. I could actually, if I knew that that was going to happen, I could have adjusted the size of it in the player options, and that there would have to be no scrolling.
What about, say, if someone was looking at it on their iPhone or iPad, will it look right?
That's a good question. When you publish, and you publish to HTML5 in particular, HTML5 is clever enough to adjust. Yeah, it takes care of tablet devices and mobile devices. It's able to adjust it. Unfortunately, this doesn't appear to be able to properly. So that's the difference. The preview option is fantastic. What I'm looking at here is, you'll know, is slideshow view in PowerPoint. My slides are full with slideshow view. You will not see the exact same thing in slideshow view on PowerPoint as you will when you preview your Articulate lesson. You will see nearly everything as it's going to appear to the user when you preview it using that option. The preview option is very nice. If I can show you really quickly. It very simply, if I click preview at the down arrow there, it allows you preview one slide, how it's going to look to the end user, allows you preview the next 3 slides if you want to see how they look in advance, and it allows you preview all of them. It's very handy, and I would advise anyone who is using this to preview it before you publish it.
And the nice thing about this, you can open an old PowerPoint presentation and work on it throughout Articulate.
Yes. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you can work on your previous
PowerPoint.
versions,
Yes. Yeah.
add new features and all that.
Yes, absolutely. It depends on. And again, I'm not sure if you got an email yesterday, but you can use Articulate with versions of PowerPoint that are 2007, 2010, and 2013.
Yeah.
I haven't tried. Isn't there a 2016 version? I think now of Microsoft Office out. I think there is. I haven't tried it with that, so I can't definitively say it works very well with that. But if you have 2007 PowerPoint even, and you have something called Service Pack 3, which is the third iteration of PowerPoint 2007, Articulate can add features and functionality to presentations created with that, anything in 2010 or anything in 2013. Even if you've just got the slides at the moment,
Yeah.
you can download Articulate and add further features to your previous existing slides. Yeah. If that's answering your question, perfect. The next thing I really briefly want to look at is theming, adding some visual content, how you can record audio, what that looks like, how we're going to sync maybe some sort of an animation with our audio, so syncing visual to auditory, if we can keep that in mind, kind of making those two distinct elements, and then annotating really quickly. I'll get through a lot of this quite quickly, but I want to break it up into each of its constituent parts and take things slowly, even though you might have this done in a minute. I just want to show you that you're doing quite a lot in a short space of time. If I can give one piece of advice, if you are designing a lesson in Articulate, that you follow this type of a sequence, which starts off with 1, create a theme for your lesson. Secondly, populate your slides that have your theme on it with anything that's visual at that point. That means your text, your graphics, any multimedia you might have, such as videos, etc. You populate it then at that point. Thirdly, I'd advise you record your narration or insert any music or audio you have once you have the final visual look on your slides. So the audio comes after the visual. The fourth thing is actually just to synchronize your both things then. So synchronize your visual elements with your auditory elements. The fifth thing is once it's synchronized, you can annotate things after. Maybe you might find that you left something out, an animation out. So you can decide to come along and annotate over it afterwards and actually pick up on that. Then I'd advise you preview it and finally publish it. But that is a set sequence, and I would advise anyone who is using Articulate to actually stick to that sequence, and you shouldn't have too many issues with it. Articulate is one of those things, it can cause certain trouble for people, depending obviously on the processing power of the laptop you're using it on. And if it conflicts maybe with any other software you've downloaded also. But if you stick to that kind of sequence, you should be fine and you should have little or no issues, hopefully. Easy to say. I want to just show you really quickly something here. What I've done is, I've just created this slide. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into Articulate Presenter, and I'm actually going to change it around slightly. What I want to happen is, I want my voice to appear over this, saying, okay, today we're going to speak about social media. Then I want this character to introduce that we're going to speak about Twitter, and I want to annotate that image by putting a spotlight around the Twitter app. The Twitter app icon there. Okay, so it's a little bit gimmicky, but I just want to show you how I'm following a set sequence and doing that. So I'll find the slide I'm working on here, which is just this one. Okay. What I want to do then is I want to go to animations in PowerPoint and look at the animation pane. So there are a certain number of animations here already that I've added. What I've done is I wanted to bring in the social media icon on the left first, then I wanted to bring in the character and then the speech bubble, but now I also want to add annotation. So I just want to play this to make sure 1, 2, 3. That's the set sequence. Okay. When I click on the Articulate tab, what I want to do is record narration over this now. You'll see that, I know it might have been quite confusing earlier when I mentioned synchronizing visual to auditory. I want to show you how you can do both at the same time now. If I record my narration, I can bring in these animations one by one in sequence as I'm speaking. So again, to make that less vague, I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I click record narration, and it loads a different looking interface for us. So you see, this is the articulate record narration interface. You see where I have my slide notes. I have attribution for the image I'm using, but very easily that could be a script that I might like to speak. And I only see that when I'm recording the narration. So you know the slide notes section at the bottom of your PowerPoint slides? If you type in your script there and click on record narration in articulate, it allows you view your slide notes as a script here. Exactly. Yeah. So it's handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click start recording, and this will record my voice as I speak, and I'm just going to introduce social media as a concept. And then you'll see that that start recording button up there will actually change to next animation. So you'll see as I'm recording audio, I can bring in an animation as I speak about it. So as you see, none of the animations are on the screen at present, so I have to bring them in. I have to control that. So I'll do it now over the next 2 seconds. So, okay, I'm just going to introduce you now to the concept of social media. I'm just after seeing that there's an annotation already on the slide, so I'll get rid of that first of all, if that's okay. So you see that I can change here on the left from record narration to add annotations and sync animations and that kind of thing. But I'll go back now and I'll start recording again, and hopefully there's nothing there. So, okay, I'm going to start recording, and now I want to introduce you to the subject of social media. I click the next animation button to bring that in. I now want to bring in the character, and also what he's going to introduce you to is the concept of Twitter. Okay, so I'll stop recording this slide now. That's my audio for the slide. I've stopped recording it. You'll see beforehand, I'd been practicing before the session, there was a little spotlight feature, but it's not there at present. So what I want to do now is, as I say, I want to highlight the Twitter app at the point that I mentioned Twitter in my audio recording. So I go to this drop-down menu and I click on Add Annotations. So it's the last thing I'm doing. And you'll see there's some lovely shapes you can add. You can add an arrow to direct someone to something. So I could add an arrow, but I don't really want to. I could use a check mark, I could use a cross, I could draw a rectangle around something, or I can use this spotlight feature, which I think is a very nice feature. So I'm going to click on spotlight, and I'm not going to change the style of it too much, but I could change the spotlight to put the background of my slide in whatever colour I want. It could be purple, yellow, green, whatever. But I'm not going to change it too much, just to leave it at its default for the moment. So if I play back by click start annotation, I'll hear myself speak, or I should hear myself speak now. Okay, I'm going to start recording, and now I want to introduce you to the subject of social media. I'm going to the next animation now to bring that in. I now want to bring in the character, and also what he's going to introduce you to is the concept of Twitter. Okay, so I'll stop recording this slide now. And if I play that back, okay, I'm going to start recording, and now I want to introduce you to the subject of social media. I click the next animation button to bring that in. I now want to bring in the character, and also what he's going to introduce you to is the concept of Twitter. Okay, so I'll stop recording this slide now. It's nice when you put it all together, but there has to be a set sequence. Otherwise it seems as a jumbled mess. And that's quite a simple slide to actually use. So it's just making sure that the sequence is correct. To save that, then I just click save and close, and that articulate slide is done, finished. I'm finished with that. If I want to preview it, again I go to publish and preview, but we've just seen a preview of it right there. So that's exactly what you see. I don't know if you want to try that now. I'm really conscious of time as well. If you want to try it, we can try something on it now. Or else I can just progress on, and you might try put bits and pieces of this into practice later on. Yeah? Perfect. That's no problem. Perfect. So I'll continue on just with the presentation, but that's how you do it. And I think, to be honest, it's just a matter of following that sequence, as I say. I was going to get you to give it a try, but there's no problem with that. Just to remember it. And really, I've only gone as far as point 6 for the moment, so I haven't done point 7. I haven't published it as of yet, because there's no need to do it for this particular outline. Moving on and looking at previewing and publishing really quickly, before we get to more of the fun stuff, which is Engage and Quizmaker. Previewing is extremely important. I know it's a boring thing to have on a slide, but if you don't preview what your final product is going to look like, what I've noticed is a lot of people expect something to happen that doesn't actually happen, unfortunately. And it's something that's so simple. But preview everything really quickly. If it just means flying through your audio and your slides, making sure your animations come up at the right time, and that you've annotated your slides correctly, it makes a huge difference before publishing out. Moving on then quickly, some small things to be aware of when you're publishing. When you are publishing, you have to be very cognizant of where you're going to publish it to. Does that mean you're publishing it to web, which you might do for Articulate Online? Or if it's going to be published to an LMS, which is a virtual learning environment, means learning management system. They're used interchangeably. So LMS is a learning management system. I'm going to come back to that point to show you something really quickly in a moment. But the second thing to be cognizant of is what standard format you are going to upload your Articulate file as. That might seem very vague again. But for me, let's say I created lesson 1 in Articulate. It's published, it's ready to go, I need to host it somewhere. I go to Moodle as my college's virtual learning environment, or LMS, whatever you want to call it. I have to upload that Articulate file as something. For me, it's a SCORM package. So SCORM. So what Moodle calls SCORM, for us, is a published Articulate file. But I upload it as a SCORM package to Moodle, and it plays perfectly on Moodle for all my students to see. I'm not sure if it's the same with Solus. I would think that it would either be SCORM or Tin Can. It's some sort of an API like that there's a standard format between your LMS and between your published product from Articulate. I would guess it would be SCORM, but it's just important to know before you go doing this. So really quickly to show you what I mean, if I clicked on publish here, very quickly, just to show you what the interface looks like when it loads in a second. So you see along the left hand side here, you see there's web, there, you can publish to web, which means what I've done here that you can view, that's published to web. So that we're looking at it on a tab in a browser right now. That's published to web that I've done already. Articulate Online, if you wanted to buy storage space from them.
And for the web you can send it as a file?
You can, as a folder.
As a folder? As
a folder that someone can go into and click on a specific file.
See it in the browser, without going online?
Without going online, exactly. But that would
review the content before publishing maybe or something.
Yes, absolutely. That could be done. It would just mean that you'd have to transfer them quite a large folder.
Or folder, Dropbox link or something.
Exactly. That would work. And it would mean that someone will be able to view it and
there's a team working in that kind of...
That's a good way to do it. Absolutely. Okay. Using it on Dropbox. If you're hosting it on a learning management system, you publish it to LMS. All of these might seem very similar, but whatever one you choose creates an extra file or two in your published product. If I publish to web and expect it to play on Moodle or Solus, it most likely won't, because there's this IMS manifest file that needs to be created, that if I click this option, will be created. You can also publish to CD-ROM, or whatever you want. If you want to package this, give it to someone on a CD. But it's very easy to transfer files in other ways nowadays, so it's becoming less, it's becoming more obsolete. Or if you publish to Word, it will strip all of the text from your slides and just put it into a Word document for you. If that was ever going to be necessary. But if you have an old PowerPoint and you just simply want to publish it to a Word document and lay it formatted for you, it will do that for you. So they're just the publishing options. As I say, just be wary of them and make sure to publish to the correct one. Really quickly before I move on from this, and we'll go on to Engage next. You see these central options here. Publishing for HTML5 and mobile devices. I've checked simply one of those. I've created one earlier that I'll show you now. But you'll see you can also use an articulate mobile player for iOS or Android. I've tried to use it before and it's quite buggy. I tend to just leave it at the first option tick. That's my own personal preference and a suggestion if you are using this. The Android and iOS mobile player for Articulate is quite buggy. So if it's published to HTML5 alone, people will be able to view it in a browser on a tablet anyway. So it doesn't have to open another mobile player. Exactly. It'll open an application. That's what it does. But
so you need to download the application.
To view it. Exactly. So if you check this box, if I check this box and I wanted you to view it on an iPad, when you click on my lesson, it'll prompt you to download this app. You download the app and open it. But for me, it has never opened successfully, the lesson in the correct format I wanted to. So I prefer simply to just let people look at it in another tab on the browser. It makes much more sense. And you can see here that you can select a slide level presenter. So if I wanted to publish me, let's say, in the upper left-hand area of the final product, you select the presenter there, or you add yourself there as well. You can do that here, or if I cancel this, you can do it in the slide properties area as well. Okay. Progressing quickly onward. We've done this, we've done that. So we're now on to looking at Articulate, Engage and Quizmaker, which is jumping outside of Presenter. So Engage is a separate product. It offers you a number of interactions to choose from. You can see here there's an accordion interaction, a bulletin board interaction, a circle diagram interaction, so a number of different interactions. There's one here that's a labelled graphic. There's a lot more. But we'll look at one or two examples in a second. Quizmaker. What Quizmaker looks like when you open that, it gives you this interface. There's lovely handy little tutorials for all of these as well. So in an hour session, I'm never going to cover everything I want with you, unfortunately, or something that you might like to ask me mightn't get covered. But there are lovely links to tutorials here, and also you can click on these links down here, product tutorials, and it brings you online to the Articulate community area, and people share a wealth of their Engage interactions and their Quizmaker quizzes with people. A lot of them, they allow you to reuse, to download and reuse if you think they're suitable. So they keep them as open educational resources. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you this particular Engage interaction. So to do that, again, because I was only showing you in slideshow mode there, I return back to the Articulate bit here. And what I want to do is you'll notice, apologies about these scroll bars, you'll notice on the left hand side we've covered all of these things here. We've done all of that. So what I want to do now is click onto where it says Unit 1, Lesson 1. Okay. This is quite an old interaction that I've created, but I just said I'd reuse it for this particular lesson. So if I click out of it here a second, you'll see what I've done is I play hurling basically. So I wanted to introduce the concept of hurling, the game, to young kids. But I wanted to introduce them to the parts of the hurling, the different parts of it. So what I did is I created an Engage interaction that points out the different parts of the hurling. So a kid comes along and they click on this. It's called the butt of the hurley, a small wooden lip at the end of it. Then they can progress through by either clicking on Next down here, and it moves along and points out the next bit on it. So foam, grip tape, the handle. Or they can click on parts of the diagram itself. So it's a labeled diagram. But what the nice thing about Articulate Engage is, and I'll show you now, is that you can also insert other media, bar just text. I've inserted text here saying welcome to whatever, use the buttons to navigate through. But I've also inserted a video that will hopefully play for us a little bit. So you can insert media such as a video, such as an image, such as audio. I won't bore you with all of it, but I'll leave it play for 10 or 30 seconds. Maybe.
The basics. Parts of the hurley.
In this video tutorial, I will look at the parts of the hurley, the names of these parts and the use of these parts when playing the game of hurling. the handle is the narrow shaft of the hurley. A small wooden lip at the end of the handle allows the hurler to grip the hurley by the top of the handle. This wooden lip is often referred to as the butt of the hurley.
Okay. So that the audio is coming out through the laptop, unfortunately, it's not coming through a speaker, but you get the idea. So sorry, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so that video was edited as well, with the name.
Yeah,
that's separate.
That's separate. That's outside of Articulate. Yes, but what I've done is I edited the video outside of Articulate and brought it in. That's it, brought it into an engage interaction. So really quickly to show you, so that this becomes again less vague, as I'm conscious of showing you end products without showing you how they were created, I opened this Articulate Engage here. This is Presenter, and that was a really good point earlier. If I click on to open Presenter, you'll see what happens. Prompts me to open PowerPoint. That's all it is. It's another tab. However, this green icon and blue icon, they're standalone products like you mentioned. So I open
you create the engagement, or you create the quiz, and then integrate it with the...
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So if I click on Engage, it opens this option for me to create a new interaction. So I'll expand this slightly just to show you the range of interactions. So there's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 different types of interaction you can include. I've created an example pyramid that I could show you also, but you might like to see how I did the labeled graphic idea really quickly. I chose this option, labeled graphic. So I clicked on that, and what I did was I replaced this image, I changed that image for the one of the hurley that you saw. Every single little label is what they're called. You can see here, these green things was a part of the hurley that I just pointed out. Again, on the layer in front of the image. And very simply, I could record audio over it. Or down here, I can insert a character, a picture, or what I did was I had a pre-prepared video. And I inserted the video at a specific label on my labeled graphic. It's quite easy to do, and it's a lovely little interaction to include. What I might do quickly is... I will show you one I made.
Product of that.
Yes, that's it. And you integrate it right here by just clicking Engage Interaction.
Then you can select the file.
And select the file. That's all that it is. It's a bit confusing when I'm showing you all of these different things open at the moment, but perfect. Thank you. So what I want to do is I actually have something created here. It's a very rough thing, very rough, but I just did it in 5 minutes earlier, and I want to show you the preview of it. So this is a pyramid interaction that I created over a course of about less than 2 minutes, but it's basically about the government and the Dáil in Ireland and the kind of the hierarchy of positions within that. So what I've done is, for a student starting there, they start at this, I've asked them to start at the top. So the Taoiseach, the highest ranking office in government. Very simply, move on. The Taoiseach's second in command is called the Taoiseach. Okay? Then someone else moved on again. So, government ministers appointed with responsibility for leading specific government departments, i.e. the Minister for Education and Skills, the Minister for Environment and Local Government, etc. Move on again. So, backbenchers, just to explain different concepts by moving through a pyramid of what responsibility they have within the government. And you can see opposition party TDs then make up the base of the pyramid, let's say, of our government. So you can see how I made that in 2 minutes, and it's very rough and actually probably isn't wholly correct either. But at the same time, how easy it is to make something like that. And then I just simply close that preview and show you this is where it came from. I clicked here on the pyramid. Sorry, it's just taking a little time. There. So I clicked on the top of the pyramid and I titled it here, Taoiseach. And then I left the comment, highest ranking office in government.
And this is the box.
And that's the box. And that's all it is. And so Articulate puts all of that nice imagery, that nice interactive effect together for you. So I hope that's somewhat clear. And again, I know it's 3 o'clock now, so I might really quickly show you Quizmaker or an example of it, and we'll leave it at that. That's good.
Well, lucky to have you here.
I'm not sure if there's another lecture, so but I'll show you really quickly Quizmaker. So back here on our published file, and I've actually locked us into this quiz. So when I click on this quiz here, to show it to you really quickly. So again, sticking with my hurling example, I've asked the question, the ground strike is a very important skill for a child to learn at a young age, as it is most often a child's primary way to, and give them a multiple choice question. So I know the answer is release possession, so I then click submit. That's my answer. I get immediate feedback. So correct, yes, that's the correct answer. So I can then continue, and my question type changes to a drag and drop one. So children should be taught and encouraged at a young age to perform the ground strike, and I'm just going to say from both sides. Or sorry, I'm going to change to the dominant side. So I just drag it into the box that was made available for me. And if I just do that, it will change it out for the answer I've selected. And submit. Incorrect. The correct answer is both sides, and it gives you some constructive feedback about that. So really quickly, that's the end product. How it was created is by going to Quizmaker. And once Quizmaker opens for us, you see you can create a new quiz. In your new quiz, you can decide to have 2 types of question. A graded or a survey question. That's it. So if you click graded, it's like the multiple choice, the drag and drop. If it's a survey, it's like simply a survey question that gives you options for your opinion to be generated. So we'll cut it short there if that's okay. But I hope it was somewhat beneficial for you.